started. The thing. Area's rendering. And we just need. Damn it. Craig. Okay. Out. And. Here we go.
Reptile Navidad. Reptile Navidad. Reptile Navidad. Serpiente año y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Snakemas. I wanna wish you a Merry Snakemas. I wanna wish you a Merry Snakemas from the bottom of my tail.
Craig!
What? Oh, hey, Bill.
Are you already drunk for Christmas?
What? That's stupid. I'm still drunk from Hanukkah.
Alright, pull it together, man. Are you going to be able to put together a Reptile Roundup for this episode?
Allow me to answer your question with another question. Tengo una pregunta para ti. Yes, I will.
Alright, well, quit screwing around and just get it done, Craig. For some unfathomable reason, the fans keep asking for this shtick.
I'm on it, man. Reptile Navidad. Reptile Navidad. Reptile Navidad. Serpiente año y felicidad.
Recorded in Round Rock, Texas, in front of a live teleconferenced audience, it's the What's Update with Xander Quation.
Season 3, Crackpots, Karens, and Robber Barons.
Yeah! Hey! Welcome to the What's Update. I'm Xander Quation. Let's get started. We are kicking off the show this week with some fun news for a change, with our ongoing segment, Good On Ya. You know, these days, you really just can't trust what you hear in the news. I mean, depending on the channel that you watch, JFK Jr. is going to run for VP in 2024 with Adolf Hitler. Vaccines cause autism. The Earth is somehow both hollow and flat. And birds aren't real.
What?
Well, actually, that last one is pretty interesting. Did you know that the reason birds all hang out on power lines is to charge their batteries and upload the surveillance data they've collected to clandestine government computers?
No.
Or, at least, that's the way this entirely tongue-in-cheek Gen Z conspiracy theory goes. What separates it from the drivel spouted by tinfoil hatters and QAnon cultists is that the believers in this theory know it to be utter hogwash. Much like the clove cigarette-smoking coffeehouse iconoclasts of yesteryear, Gen Zs are standing up to a post-truth world by creating their own. This coping mechanism allows us to trudge through this wild, weird, alternative fact-laden psycho-sim in which we all find ourselves. In classic Colbert Report style, my generation is gonna out-crazy the crazies. Abortion is murder? Oh yeah? Birds are CIA drones. Vaccines have tracking devices? Oh yeah? Well, oxygen is in fact a deadly poison that takes 80 to 100 years to kill you. We're all rusting from the inside, man. It's simple psychology. Out crazy the crazies. Current supply chain issues mean that New York delis are facing a shortage of cream cheese. Deli managers are struggling to get the unprocessed and unwhipped cream cheese base that they use to make their signature bagel toppings. New Yorkers might have to get used to seeing new deli boards announcing, "We're here! No schmear!" Get used to it? In local news, the New York Times reports that Austin has steadily become one of the least affordable cities in the United States, outside of California. It has already surpassed super spendy markets like Boston, Miami, and New York City. With an average influx of 180 new residents a day from the east and west coasts, affordable housing options have dried up, prices have skyrocketed, and almost everyone from the average homeowner to the most established businesses are struggling to stay afloat. And if you can't, Governor Rolling Plunder over here is happy to impound any remaining life rafts and giggle while you sink. Big point, please, people, stop moving here. Seriously. And speaking of moving, A British court ruled that Julian Assange can be extradited to the United States to face espionage charges. If convicted, Assange may face decades of jail time in U.S. prison. British law says that Assange can appeal, but after spending 7 years hiding in the Ecuadorian embassy, and 2 more in London's Belmarsh prison, this pasty wanker has even less appeal now more than ever. President Biden recently signed a series of executive orders paving the way to U.S. government carbon neutrality. The orders direct federal agencies to purchase electric vehicles, build with sustainable building materials, and to use wind, solar, and nuclear energy to power those facilities.
Yeah.
Not to be outdone, Governor Greg Abbott directed Texas agencies to seek out renewable resources to burn for fuel, starting with the homeless.
Oh, damn.
We're ending this season with a bang. The U.S. Justice Department has once again sued Texas, this time claiming that the new redistricting violated the Voting Rights Act and discriminates against minority voters. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said the Republican legislature's redistricting plan would make Black and Latino votes count less than other voters, and therefore violates Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The Texas GOP responded by saying, "Don't worry, we didn't dilute the votes that much. I mean, Black votes still only count as 3/5 of a white vote, right?"
Don't even know.
That one just came back around. Now, in a rare turn of events, we've actually got some sports ball news.
I'll believe it.
Well, leave it. Just when you thought Texas Pop Warner football for elementary age sports ball junkies wasn't a ridiculous concept enough, just you wait. It gets way more ridiculous. The Flower Mound Rebels had a perfect season this year. The team, which is made up of 7- and 8-year-olds, had a perfect record and outscored their opponents 199-6 during regular play.
Oh, man.
Keller Youth Association Vice President Rhett Taylor, who coaches a rival team that got stomped 33-0 by the Ubertots, barred the Rebels from the playoffs for being too good. I mean, what's next? Testing juice boxes for doping? A 3-game suspension for not wearing their Paw Patrol mask on the sidelines? Or maybe they just go the full Harrison Bergeron by adding 20-pound weights to all their tiny feet. OGSS, kiddies! Only the small survive.
You.
The California School for the Deaf Riverside football team is making some noise. Or not, in their division this year. The all-deaf and hard-of-hearing team is undefeated this season. Many folks may be surprised how well a team that cannot hear can work together to play a winning game. Among the many in-game benefits for the team are no distractions from the crowd, the ability to sign across downfield, and, best of all, shit-talking the other team while they just think you're doing the hand jive.
That's rude.
Now, while we're on the subject of communication, Le Petit Robert, a prominent French dictionary, elected to add a gender non-binary pronoun to its text, sparking huge controversy with much of the French population. The pronoun "yel" is seen as an American assault of wokeness on French culture and language, with Minister of Education Jean-Michel Blanquer saying, quote, "You must not manipulate the French language, whatever the cause." Well, excusez-moi s'il vous plaît. Look, I've been taking Duolingo French for a while now, and even the voice actors can't decide how to pronounce this shit. Making the French language more complicated and ridicule is the most French thing you could possibly do, Jean. Here's a question for you. Have you ever worked in an office cool enough to have sanctioned Nerf gun wars?
No.
It is awesome. Seriously. Well, until, that guy shows up. Now, Michael Pick, an engineer from Huntsville, Alabama, decided to be the biggest that guy on record by creating the world's largest Nerf gun. It measures 12 feet 6 inches long and fires foot-long missiles up to 50 miles per hour, earning a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records. No, Chet. I believe it is you who will refill the copy paper. I mean, damn it. If that's what he's using for Nerf wars, I can only imagine what he's using for airsoft fights. And if he asks you to play laser tag, just say no. It's not gonna work out.
Reptile Roundup, it's time to put on a show. Reptile Roundup, there's stuff mammals need to know. What is up, mammals? Research mammals recently announced the discovery of a new species of ankylosaur in sub-Antarctic Chile. The new species, which they named Stegoros elengasin, was armored like a regular ankylosaur, but had a tail shaped like a battle axe instead of a club tail like the more common type. Club tail sounds like the kind of place I like to get my drink on. Australian mammals have discovered a new dinosaur fossil that's one of the biggest in the world. The dinosaur was a long-necked sauropod and was as long as a basketball court and as tall as a 2-story building. The skeleton was given the scientific name of Australotitan cooperensis and nicknamed Cooper because it was found at Cooper Creek in Queensland, and not for that rocket raccoon mammal. That raccoon mammal's a really good actor.
Yeah, he is.
Speaking of Australia, if you mammals are headed down this winter to go scuba diving, here's a safety tip from your old pal Craig. If you're ever out scuba diving and a 6-foot-long sea snake comes swimming up at you really fast, don't panic. Yes, sea snakes are poisonous, but they can't eat you, so they don't really want to bite you. Actually, they want to love you, if you know what I'm saying. It turns out those sea snakes are desperate to get their freak on in the breeding season. But snakes that evolved to go on land and then went back into the sea for some reason don't have the best water vision. That's why I always wear my beer goggles, mammals. And lastly, this year, mammals at London's Natural History Museum, sorry mammals, got a little of my drink in my lips, dressed their animatronic T-Rex up in a Christmas sweater, or jumper as they call them over there. That Christmas sweater is not only ugly, but is culturally insensitive and speciest.
Why's that, Craig?
Everybody knows that dinosaurs are Jewish. That Christmas mammal was only born 2,000 years ago.
Christmas mammal?
Plus, it's a turtleneck sweater. They're saying all reptiles look alike. Stick around, audience mammals. The Xander mammal will be right back. Reptile Roundup, it's time to put on a show. Reptile Roundup, there's stuff mammal need to know. Hiccups.
Stick around. We'll be right back.
Yeah! Woo! 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 Yeah! 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 Woohoo!
Welcome back. The holiday crazy season is upon us in full force. It started, say, 5 minutes after the last trick-or-treaters went to bed on a sugar high. Now, for all 5 of you true Zan fans who regularly watch, this won't come as a big shock, but I'm Jewish.
What?
My big winter holiday came early this year and has already been done for more than a week now. I've been pretty lucky to live in a place where my Jewishness hasn't ever really been a problem. But when I was a little kid, it was a bit more weird. There were a lot of things about the winter holidays that I just didn't get. Only one day of presents? Big honking Christmas trees? Don't these people have cats? Caroling, Santa Claus, and especially the elf on the shelf. Thanks, Craig, for getting that little gem stuck in my head.
No problemo, my pharaoh.
As it has been explained to me, a scout elf sits on a shelf in a family's home during the holiday season to observe the children's behavior before snitching back to Santa Claus each night. Then the little rat fink comes back each day to spy again. Aside from some very obvious problems with this, like the fact that there are no black or brown elves, the normalization of surveillance culture, or the general creepiness of the whole mishigash, the thing that really bugs me is that this new tradition is tied into the very old tradition of parents lying to their children. So, here's the thing. Put very simply, parents really need to stop lying to their kids.
Yeah.
Psychologists have studied the long-term effects of parental deceptions on the mental health and welfare of their children. A study conducted in 2017 by Jocelyn Cargill and Drew Curtis found that people who remembered frequent parental lying during childhood were much more likely to say that they were dissatisfied with the relationship that they had with their parents. But Xander, I can hear parents saying everywhere.
Parents don't sound like that.
You should listen to yourself on recording every now and then. A few little white lies don't hurt anyone. No. White lies hurt everyone. Just take a look at the 1/6 insurrection. But I digress.
Oh, damn.
Hiding body parts under a pillow for a cash-toting, teeth-eating fey creature to collect while they sleep is just a story. A rabbit that delivers chocolate eggs because some Jewish guy got nailed to a tree for telling the truth to Iron Age Romans is just religion. An obese, elderly dude that lives in a hyper-secret northern location with his wife and hundreds of polar leprechauns that spies on you when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake, and knows when you've been bad or good, so be good or no bike for you, you ungrateful little shit. Santa is merely harmless holiday hijinks. But let me take a side trip here for just a moment. Consider it a public service announcement of sorts. People, quit telling your kids that the big, expensive, fancy schmancy, over-the-top gift is from Santa. Not only are you giving a completely fictional character unearned glory for your hard work and maxed-out credit card, but you're also exacerbating problems for your children, or for children that aren't even your own. Little kids have been told that Santa brings gifts to good children. So what happens to the poor kid that got a big bag of socks and underbreeches from Santa when his classmate got a $3,000 electric mini Land Rover from the old fat man? That is a really shitty thing to do to kids that already have it rough enough being shamed for free school lunches. But, once again, these are just little white lies. White lies matter. Wait.
I don't think that's right.
The bigger lies are the ones that have long-term effects. A 2014 article in Psychology Today by licensed child clinical psychologist Dr. Kate Roberts gives examples of lies parents need to stop telling if they hope to raise reasonably well-adjusted children into hopefully not completely mentally twisted adults. High on the list are lies told about family problems like illnesses. Oh, mommy just has a bit of a cold, when mommy clearly has cancer. Relationship lies like, oh, mommy and daddy are getting divorced, but they still really love each other. Or, mommy and daddy were just disagreeing very loudly. That lamp has always been broken. No, this isn't a black eye. Just stop gaslighting your children about their feelings or about dead pets. Yes, Timmy, you are really pissed off. And no, Mr. Scruffles did not go live on a clover-laden gerbil farm in Oklahoma. I mean, it would be sin enough to say that something lives in Oklahoma. I can do this. Just be honest about things that are going on in their world. Kids these days, as young as kindergarten, go through active shooter drills. It does them no good to deny or sugarcoat school violence. Stop telling them they can't have a pet because they have allergies that you just made up, and not because you don't want to get stuck cleaning the litter box for the next 10 days, or years, or the rest of your life. Stop making up excuses for missing their second-grade tribute to the Beach Boys' massive catalog of hits because you wanted to get your drink on after work with the office girls. And please, stop telling them that everything is going to be okay. Sometimes it isn't going to be okay. Sometimes things are going to be really fucked up. And speaking of fucked up, just another little side note while I have your attention. Can we please stop with the whole you can't say bad words in front of children thing? Finally. Seriously. They have the internet. They have friends. They have phones. They have eyeballs and ears. And if your parents haven't called you a jackass to your face once or twice, you probably went to boarding school.
Jackass.
And if you sincerely think that your kids haven't heard cuss words, you are living in the same fantasy land where the elf on the shelf is anything other than a tiny snitch that deserves a long, wet ride in the garbage disposal.
Elf on the Shelf's got you a bit riled up there, buddy.
All I'm saying is that snitches get stitches.
Well, yeah, as they should. Nobody likes a narc.
Because you know what they say, Sergey. Smert spionam.
What's that mean?
Just death to spies.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Whether it's TF2 or snitches in general, death.
Cool.
In any case, children are quite resilient. I'm not saying you should give gory bullet-by-bullet headshot details about the latest school massacre. I'm not saying you should give vivid descriptions of finding daddy in bed with a crackhead hooker as the reason why he no longer has unsupervised visitation rights. I'm not saying you should sit them down with you when you figure out which utility is going to be paid super late so the other one won't get cut off this month. I am saying, don't lie to your kids. I'll give you an example. One day, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I came home from religious school and repeated a less than savory pejorative phrase about same-sex oriented people. I won't repeat the word here, it was pretty bad. Now, don't freak out. I heard it from some of the other kids that went to my Hebrew school. They were from an Orthodox family that had moved to Austin from God knows where. Probably someplace with no manners. But that's not what's important. They were shitty kids from a shittier family. So anyway, there I was with a cute little face, bright shiny eyes, repeating a phrase that even Dave Chappelle wouldn't use. Or maybe he would. Once again, not the point. Instead of freaking out, instead of being all judgy, instead of assuming I was the shithead, my parents, in their infinite wisdom, asked me where I'd heard it and what I thought it meant. And I had no idea. They patiently explained it to me in a way that a first grader could understand what homosexuality was. They told me that sometimes two men or two ladies will fall in love the way that a mommy and daddy do. They explained that love is love, and everyone deserves a forever person, even if both of those people happen to have schmeckles.
Yeah, schmeck.
They didn't have to be graphic. I didn't need diagrams. They put things in words that I could understand at the level of understanding I was at. And then we moved on. Probably helped a great deal that I was really into Doctor Who at the time, and Captain Jack Harkness was one of my favorite characters. After the 10th Doctor, of course. Most importantly, they didn't lie to me. Research suggests that lying to kids, even those little white lies, like Santa is a real guy, or white supremacist cops don't murder unarmed black people, can have long-term negative effects. If you lie to them now on something trivial, how will they ever believe you when it really matters? We'll be right back with comedian, actress, and really cool person, Lynn Rajskub. Stick around.
Yeah!
Welcome back. We're really excited about this one. Once again, we're doing this in person and we're on location. It's almost like we're a real show this time. So, let's get started with our 3 standard questions. Who you, what's due, and why?
Oh, that's how it comes out. That's the question. Who are you, what to do, and why?
Yes.
Lynn Rajskub is who I am. What I do is I'm an actor, comedian, writer, mother, ex-wife. Why? You know, just living life. Just following my dreams.
You'd be surprised how common, that's our answer is. It's usually either, I'm just going through the day. Or most often with other comedians is I am not qualified to do anything else, so I just go.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
You'll have a large print of our various interviews.
Oh, because I put the word dreams in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was, sometimes when you're just so deeply sarcastic or something is gone so wrong, you're like, it must be right. It must be right.
I've gotten so
when you're like, why? When you ask the deep why, it turns out, this is my choice.
I've gotten so far into the sarcasm that I doubled back into sincerity.
You understood that. You understood that. That made no sense. You're like, let me explain back to you what you said. It flips around.
I deal with multiple Gen Xers on a daily basis. I speak the language.
Fantastic.
Is there anything you have coming up that you want to tell our audience about?
I think I'm going to be touring. I mean, after last night, it made me question everything, but I think I will be touring. I have a book coming out in April, and April 4 of 2022. This is the internet. People could watch this at any time.
This is
right?
true.
So
also-
that's like hot off the presses. Nobody knows that's in the works. We're in the final stages of that. I have a show on Hulu coming out called The Dropout. I don't know the release date on that. You know the Elizabeth Holmes story? She's the one who did the finger prick blood test. Theranos, the company she was lying about everything. It was $1 billion company. She wanted to be like the Steve Jobs of like medical device development. She had this really good idea. She conned everybody. She got like the biggest figures in like finance and tech and even politics to like jump on her bandwagon. The company was worth billions, like billions of dollars. She had buildings dedicated and scientists developing this technology, and it turned out she was lying.
Oh, man.
So there's a documentary about her. I think it started with like a New York Times piece, and then there was a documentary, and now they're doing the narrative version of her story.
Wow.
So I'm the wife of a guy who really was like a medical device. She was too. She just was lying about the progress they were making. And my husband is played by William H. Macy. So he's the best.
Oh, that's really good.
That was really exciting. I did a few episodes of that. And a bunch of stand-up. Got the book coming out. That's about it.
All right. So into like more specific stuff. You and I, you happen to be in the difficult to pronounce last name club, as am I with a Polish surname.
Hell yes.
So
What's your last name?
Kweicien.
Kwenin.
It's always with the extra N. It's like it's pronounced Quation, but rarely does that ever
It's
get
pronounced Quation?
Well, not in
Yep.
Polish. In Polish, it sounds Polish. It's
Technically,
the
it's
Polish word for
Kwiecień.
April.
How do you say it in Polish?
I don't know. I
Kwiecień.
married this name. No idea.
You made a real defense for that. You're like, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Well, don't ask that.
I know as much about my last name as pretty much any substitute teacher.
Yeah.
We're out of luck here. So I gotta ask, what is the most common mispronunciation of your last name?
Oh, it's just, they don't even finish the name. It's just like a Raj.
That's the time for
But
me.
it's nice. I think people are learning it now, which is really, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's like sort of a testament to my career when people are like, it's Rajskub, right? Which again is like a totally, Americanized. I don't know what the actual name was. I was in Prague years and years ago, and I like lamely, like I'm not a real good student. I didn't do that much research. I just looked in the phone book for rice cups, and there was not a one. So I was like, I don't know what. I have no idea what it must have originally been. So the fact that this is the Americanized version and it's still messed up, it's like, well, why didn't you change it to something like more simple?
I guess
You
that means
changed it, but not enough to make it pronounceable.
well, it just means you're one of a kind.
That's right.
And I can definitely identify with the whole, like, if people don't know it, people don't even try, like, with substitute teachers, or teachers in general, it's always just like, alright, Kiesel, here, hey, Kenneth, here, 2, 3, here. There's always that little pause, so they're
Yes,
like,
absolutely. I know that pause.
yeah. So I read in your bio that you played Frenchie in Grease in high school, and I also suffered through a high school production of Grease in the very, very minor role of the smart awkward nerd that happens to have a Jewish name or Jewish thing of Eugene Florsick.
Oh yeah.
So do you still get like PTSD level flashbacks when you ever hear something like the hand jive or anything like that?
No, I would welcome that flashback. All of my flashbacks are much closer to, professional, real life acting jobs. If I had flashbacks in my high school play, that would be adorable. Like that's
At this
not,
point.
At this point, that would be like, oh, remember those boobs? Those were so sweet. Like I would hug those times.
It seems like I got a lot to look forward to in the
Oh,
entertainment industry.
So great. Oh, decade after decade, the disappointments and the failures, but also, you know, the other side of it's pretty sweet. So the successes. So you got nothing to worry about. You get both.
Great, now the building's gonna fall down.
I mean, I think if you're living life right, you know, you're gonna have big. I'm not saying like become a gambling addict and have big highs and big lows, but if you're gonna put the effort in, you're gonna put your heart into something, you're gonna get it crushed. Okay, that's just
It's
that's
part
the name
of the
game.
process.
And then when it's not, it's just it's such a delight. And then you know you shift, you realize the beautiful things and the terrible things sometimes are the same, just like the sarcasm and the sincerity.
And then on top of that, never go skiing, never fly in a private jet, never get in a helicopter.
Ooh, let's talk about all those things. Skiing, I actually had a traumatic flashback.
Oh,
This is a
oh,
sidebar.
yeah.
This is a sidebar. I don't know
Okay.
if this will be interesting or not.
It's all sidebars in
I
this
learned
show.
how to ski. I was at the Aspen Comedy Festival years and years ago with David Cross, of all people. There's a little name drop for you. But at the time, I was with all these like young, you know, who a bunch that went on to great success. But this group of like comedians. I was dating him at the time. That's why I picked out his name in particular. But there was a whole group of us that, you know, the guys that would go on to do the show, Mr. Show. Was Bob Odenkirk there? Anyway, everyone, you know, we're in Aspen, so we're gonna go skiing, and I didn't know how to ski, but I just jumped on the mountain with these guys. I mean, and they were as nice as they could be, and I was just like, "Do pizza," and I was like, "Okay," and it was exhilarating, but like that's downhill skiing. I could have. That was not my best work. Anyway, years later, I was married. We were on the chairlift, mellow. You know, I knew the scope of the mountain, but I had like a flashback. Is this a weird story?
Nah.
It was almost like a recovered memory because at the time when I went up on that mountain, I was so like full speed ahead that I didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just like throwing myself into stuff that it was like a residual feeling that came up, and I never knew that. I know that's a thing that like happens to people with other like, you know, real traumas and stuff like that, but like for me, I had like a shuddering like panic attack about skiing, and I connected it back to my first experience that I had never processed, you know what I mean? In other words, I had no business doing what I did, but I did it anyway.
Oh, man.
And my body and my feelings were like, we're catching up to you now. Why don't you go ahead and like think about what you've done? And I told my husband, and I was almost embarrassed, like in those moments where you're like sick or scared and like the human ego you don't want to admit, you know, I was like being totally calm about it, but I was like, so I'm having a panic attack. Like there's no way he could have known how serious it was, and I was like, I'm gonna need to like get off, and like I'm really, and I tried to explain it to him, but it was very interesting. Like it was terrible, but it was kind of cool because I was like, what is this? And I just went and had a little mini breakdown and just drank a little cider for the rest of the day. I was like, wow, that was wild. Then what's the next one? What is the next one you said? Helicopter, skiing.
Yeah, helicopter, skiing, private jets.
Oh, private jet.
Never.
Oh my god, I also had a mini panic attack in a private jet, which I was lucky enough to go on the Fox when I was part of the Fox family. Oh, they kicked me out of that family right when the show went off the air.
Oh,
But,
sure.
but there was one time I got to go for some promotional thing, and I remember everyone was having a great time, and I was like, why are we in this tiny box? Because when you're in a small plane that's like super luxury, well, it's also a tiny plane, so you're like more aware of like, I'm not in a big plane that gives the, you know, feeling of like safety, like it's more massive.
Safety in numbers.
Yeah, but I was like, we're in this tube, like we can't escape, and not that a private jet isn't fantastic. It would be a preferable way to fly, even though it's not a good thing for the environment. But
And probably the absolute worst time to start singing "Ooh, I look just like Bunny."
that's what I'm talking about.
In
You've
case,
been on a private jet?
No.
Would you go?
Well, given the track record, I intend to up my my famousness a little bit over the years, and that never, fame and private jets never seem to go well. So I'm not gonna risk it.
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
There's more accidents with that. And I also had a terrible experience with the helicopter. I've also had an amazing experience with the helicopter. One was just like flying over LA, like not that high up, and then it was really calm and it was really beautiful. And like I feel like we just stayed, I don't know plane terms, but I feel like we just stayed on the same smooth level for the whole ride. And then the one that was terrible was Hawaii, because you go close to the mountain and you get caught in weather, and we were just like bobbing around.
Oh no.
And I think for them that's fairly normal because the weather shifts so quickly and is over quickly, but if you're in it, it's like, it was very harrowing. And there's nothing you can do. You just have to like wait until it's over, you know? I felt like I was on acid where I was just like gripping it and going, like just counting the moments of, you know what I mean? Like, get through it. Oh, okay, a couple moments of calm, and then like get through it, and like just
bad trip, man, bad trip.
Yeah, like nauseous and bad trip, trying to like not freak out until we got down to the.
Sounds like being in labor.
Whoa.
Oh.
I mean, I think I would rather be in labor.
It just keeps striking notes here.
I know.
I would rather be in labor than be in that helicopter ride, because I feel like you're stuck. Again, you're stuck, and someone else is in control.
Great job, Sam. You're traumatizing the guest. Good for you.
Another
Did
thing
you
to
feel
check
that
out
way
bingo
during labor?
cards.
Let's talk
Oh
about
no,
it.
I was on a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
I don't remember any
Yeah,
of
the
it.
option.
I was on a lot of
I
drugs.
talk about this in my act, not so much anymore, but I kind of cut out this whole chunk. Sometimes I force people to listen if I see like certain men in the front row. I'll just be like, let me tell you about my C-section. Anyway, and it just gets longer and longer
sure.
when I see the reaction, but I try to have a home birth, and then that didn't work. I mean, it was terrible. It's weird though to compare that to like being in a helicopter, because like at least with the labor, it's my own body. I don't know. That's such a morbid. That's such a weird thing to say, but at least I was like in my body.
Like starting to make a tier list of traumas.
Yeah, I like it.
We're doing wonders
I
here,
like
folks. Alright, so
And then I got the drugs later.
Oh.
For an emergency C-section.
I had an
thank
emergency
God.
C-section.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
dang,
Woo, sisters.
like interview with the guest and the director.
Yeah, well, you know.
Pulling out all the stops for this one. So back on to hopefully something more cheery. Your first listed TV gig was on Mr. Show with Bob and David. So what was that experience like?
That was amazing. I mean, I was just so happy. I felt like when I moved to LA and met comedians, I had finally found my people. And I mean, I definitely knew that these people that are around were very special and of a high caliber, but I didn't know, you know, what Mr. Show would become to comedy fans, and you know, what everybody would go on to do in their career. But at the time I was just like so happy to be around, and when I met all these comedians I was like, oh, like this is where I want to be. I mean, I was just like bouncing on my body, like just like a little mascot of Mr. Show. It was just like a really fun, creative, just happy to be there.
That does the energy, but then now you got the street cred for years to come.
That's right.
Yes.
It's called street cred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For us, that's called interviews. It's like, how high above our weight class can we bat here? Alright. So, you've been acting for a while now. So when and why did you start doing stand-up?
I actually started in comedy in Los Angeles doing live shows, and I was going to art school, and I was doing performance art, and then I was making fun of performance art.
That's not hard.
Well, because I was going to art school because I'm a pretty introverted person. Although I did acting in high school, and performing really was the only way I could express myself and sort of come out of my shell. So I went to school for painting, which was, you know, more inward, and then I was kind of I don't know, like self-destructing inside. I think I was, you know, started performing to get out of myself, you know, to be in the world, to connect with the world. And so that's when I started doing like all these bars and stuff in San Francisco, and then I ended up going to LA. So really my first thing, what I'm saying in a long drawn out way, is it was just live shows, which is what I was compelled to do. And then making fun of the performance art, I realized I was accidentally making fun of it, and then people were laughing, and then I liked the laughter. So I was drawn towards comedians in San Francisco, which led me to LA, which led me to this live scene. And you know, it was before the internet, so it's interesting because there is like such a people, I think now are drawn to live performance in different genres in a different way. Now that we're like post-COVID, it's interesting how people are going back to concerts and stuff.
We've been looking at screens for the past 2 years. We
Yeah.
need something in person.
But back then it was like there really was, you know, now if you talk to like a young performer or something, it's like, well, make your own stuff, make videos. But then it was like, that didn't really exist, you know? There was like high cameras or something. So the scene was, you know, people would really come to live shows to recruit you for stuff, and that's how I got into acting, was from these live shows. People would come out and see me, and then I would get like, you know, auditions and meetings and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So then it was like acting took over a huge chunk, and I never fully quit comedy, and then I went back to comedy, you know, in the past few years.
Well, the stage is kind of like a whole other world once you're up there, especially like since you got all the stage lights, and that pretty much blinds you to whoever's in front of you, aside from front row.
Have you done a lot of plays and stuff?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, well, lots of Shakespeare though. Yeah,
Ooh.
Yeah.
And is that what happens? Like you're on stage and you kind of just go into a different.
Yeah, because half the time I can't see anything. It's like I often had to wear glasses, and at that time I didn't have any contacts to use. So essentially, if the lights didn't blind me, I was blind anyways.
And so how did you deal with that?
Only dealing with like, okay, I'm only slightly nearsighted, so as long as nobody puts anything small in front of me, then I should be good.
So you could see.
Yeah, I mostly see.
He never fell off the stage.
So you just kind of like talked yourself
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, you just gotta get through it.
Yeah. And you enjoy performing then.
Yeah, that's what got me here.
Well, actually, it was the car, but sure.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the director is both a sarcastic Gen X and pedantic, so...
Nobody likes you.
Well, we all know that.
No.
As many people are aware, you were a series regular on the show 24. How did that come about in the first place?
24, the editor of 24 had seen a movie called Punch Drunk Love, where I played an overbearing sister to Adam Sandler, and he showed it to the producer of 24, who called me in for an audition, which I didn't want to go to because I didn't really audition for dramas at the time, and I had had a bad CSI audition, so I said, I'm not going to go on this, and my agent said, they really want to see you, and I was like, really? And then I got there, and it was one of the nicest meetings I had. They didn't really have any material for the character. They knew they were gonna create this character, and he was a fan of mine from that movie, the executive producer, so that was like a really, really nice validation as an actor. And he told me, I want to create a part for you, like based on, you know, what I know of you from that movie. So it was already just this incredible moment, you know, of like validation, and honestly, I really didn't think it was gonna happen, because you just kind of like have to take things as they come, where it's like, okay, I know he means it, I believe him, but I know how these things go, like it might not end up happening, and then, you know, and then it did, and then and then it just grew from there.
Dropping into a drama with a tailor-made character.
Yeah.
How's
Amazing.
How's the process of switching from mostly comedic jobs to a full-on drama?
I mean, I was very lucky in that it's not like I had to jump in and carry the whole show, you know, like I would just have like some scenes, so I just approached it kind of how I would approach comedy, like I just approached the material and interpret it and how did I want to do it.
Whole hit your mark, speak your truth, that sort of thing?
Yeah, but you know, I definitely was nervous that I wouldn't hit the tone of the show. So, because when you're coming into something, you know, I just kind of tried to acclimate as best as I could. And I remember I definitely stuck out on that show, which ultimately ended up being a good thing. But I remember like 3 or 4 episodes in, I started trying to talk like this. And my boss was like, I see what you're doing, like you don't have to do that. Like you're right, you do stick out, but we like that. So it just kind of was, you know, I stuck out enough so that it worked and didn't like get me fired.
It was like, see what you're trying to do here, but you don't need to go the full Kevin Conroy. We like how you do the character.
Yeah, so that, you know, it just, I think it was good instincts on the showrunner's part that he knew what he wanted, and honestly, those were my best jobs, where there was, pretty much a singular voice that knew their vision and knew what they wanted, you know. I would say Paul Thomas Anderson and Gary Shamling, and then you know, Joel Sternow, who was the boss at 24, were able to sort of have that power and that vision to, you know, not do it by committee. It's not like a network sitcom where it's like, all right, we're gonna have like 8 people, and then we're gonna talk about it with these other people, and we want the person with this hair color, like where they're almost like trying to calculate what's going to work rather than a person going, no, this is my creative vision. It seems like there's so many things that then become about like the business of it, that they want to like not screw it up, and then they end up sort of like screwing it up because they don't take the chance with the vision. So which I mean, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but clearly you can tell the one that I like better, but not that good things can't come out of the other process, but that sort of has been, you know, what worked for me in the past, what I respond to.
It's good to have a story where they know where it's going to end up, so now it's just a matter of getting there.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, it's not necessarily that they know, they just kind of commit to what they think the vision is. Like, I don't think there was a plan, especially for Chloe on 24, but at least at the, you know, the seed of it was, yes, like it was the creative person in charge, knowing all the elements of the show, having an idea of like, might be cool to have somebody who's, you know, a bit odd or has these qualities. Because there is definitely a leap of faith, you know. It's not necessarily some like hard plan. It was just like, yeah, I like, and that's a lot of the business too. My son realized that like a couple years ago. He's like, wait, so your job, people just decide if they like you? He's like, that's so random. He's like, that's how your job is done? I'm like, yeah, cool job. Right?
Nothing quite like having your child question your entire existence out loud to
Kids
your
really
face.
have a way of summing things up in the worst way.
It's totally subjective, you know, and I guess what I'm getting at with that is like a strong creative vision, there's still those moments of like, a feeling I had just now, or like, I'm gonna go for that, you know, it's not necessarily
Making the decisions in the moment. So,
yeah.
If you stick to a rigid plan, it might not work out as well.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of your kid, you were a working parent, so how did you handle schooling and such during the early parts of the pandemic?
Thank you for asking. All of my stuff right before the pandemic was my work for the first few months was all personal appearance stuff, so that got trashed. So I didn't have anywhere to go. So it was, acting is weird like that because sometimes I have to go away, but then when I'm home, I'm really just home. So for me, it works quite well, sort of the stopping and starting of it.
There's not really a way to take this work home.
Yeah, so it was really good for me because I was home and then I had to sort of shift and scramble and come up with, I wrote the book, I did a couple of TV show pitches, I did a lot of online, whether it was Zoom shows, I did like an Instagram show early on, so it was just like shifting to that while being home with my kid and a lot of dishes, a lot of breakfast, lunch, and dinners, but there were moments where it's like I'd look and he's just wakes up and opens and is in class. It's just like, oh, this is like not good, He did well. Like I've heard a lot of other people, either it's like little kids where, you're stuck home with like a 3 and 4 year old. I mean, you would anyway be home with your toddler, but it's just that confining, like you can't, or the parents are now in the house and they can't leave and go to work. Like that's really hard to keep like little kids occupied, especially those early days when we're like feeling like we cannot leave the house, like even to go to the park, But so I was pretty lucky in that my son, was preteen, so he was just like, bye, like shut the door. And I'm like, I have food, so it's
I just need some me time. It's like, okay, whatever you say. Thank God.
And then by the time, school came around, it's been so fun to see, he's socializing with other kids. Like, I think we're really, all feeling that. Grateful for that.
Like we're getting somewhere with social interaction.
Yeah, we're getting somewhere. But yeah, like I said, his personality, like and then other than like the little kid thing, I've also heard of like older kids that weren't able to adjust to that well, which is completely understandable and shitty, when you have a kid that's like, makes them feel isolated. But my son was good. He was a tough. He made friends over Zoom.
And the whole transition to a Zoom-oriented world really just acted as a litmus test for how introverted are you?
I think so, for sure. And for me, for my life, I was like, oh, pretty introverted.
As it turns out,
I'm good. I don't need to leave that much, which is weird because now I'm, once things got back going out several nights a week to do stand-up is a weird existence, but.
It's often that, there's a pandemic going on. Oh no, what are we going to have to do? Well, you're going to have to self-isolate. Well, what does that entail? You need to stay home, try not to interact with too many people, don't go outside too much, just to prevent any sort of spread. Well, damn, I was doing that anyway.
So nice, yeah. And I got a rescue dog, so I'm a dog and a cat, which has been, obviously.
I'm sure your cat loves the dog.
Oh, they're BFFs.
Are they? That's awesome.
They're BFFs. Well, the cat I had 2 dogs. They both passed away of old age. Like they both had a good life, but my 2 dogs were girls, and then my husband had gotten a cat. So when the cat was a kitten, it was in a dog household already. So by the time the rescue dog, I just kept them in separate rooms, and then the cat just like dominated. It was like, let the dog know. In my space, and then they're good.
There's plenty of videos on the internet showing exactly that scenario.
Totally.
It's always that. Let's talk about who's really in charge.
Yeah.
They always gotta establish dominance. Like even just like, okay, I give you food, I give you water, we're good, right? And just like, we'll see, come on.
Totally.
And then when you bring a dog in, it's like, I can use this one. This would be very ideal for my plans.
Absolutely.
So, shifting gears a bit, in your time doing stand-up in clubs and as a woman in the entertainment industry, Have you run into any difficulties with misogyny or harassment with men being inappropriate with you or other women?
You mean besides all the times when I've slept with men to get jobs? Aside from that, right?
Oh yeah, not the ones on purpose.
Not the ones on purpose.
No.
Well, I mean, being a Gen Xer, let's see which route I'm going to go with this answer. Being a Gen Xer, I've noticed, in the generations coming up, it's like, to us, it was just accepted that it sort of is like a man's world and you're a part of it. And so that's been really exciting to see the shifts happen of stuff that I just expected,
You took men being disgusting for granted.
Yes. Yeah, men are, that just was like normal. You're a cog in the wheel of what men's vision for the world, and then you exist and sort of find like chinks in that and ways to thrive in spite of that, because you're in it, so you don't realize that that's what it is. The why not me too? Oh no, sorry, that's a joke for my act. The Me Too movement. The Me Too movement, is like, it's really sad, but it's also like when you, even early in that, when you see all those voices, it's like, oh, sort of like this wave of like, oh right, that's not cool. Like all these things that were just normal, and then to hear all the voices and like the strength in that and the things shifting is pretty incredible. And
getting to the collective point of being able to say like, no, this ain't right, this needs to change.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that, I like men. I just this is the world that we live in, and it's I don't know.
Men make great pets.
We're kind of stupid.
I don't know how it got. I don't know. That's our culture is just.
Yeah,
I mean, in all aspects, it's just like what we're realizing is like we're backwards. Our society is like backwards.
We got a long ways to go and a lot of time to go that way, and like, okay, back up. We need to think this through again.
Yeah.
Alright, so bringing it back to something a little less heavy, the big question that we're asking all the guests this season: if you could bring back any 2 people from the dead for 24 hours, who would you bring back, and what would you do with them?
Oh. I don't like questions like this. That's hard. What's your answer? Oh, give me time to think.
No cheating.
Who's interviewing who here?
Wait, to bring back for an hour?
For 24 hours.
Oh, for 24 hours. I mean, the first person that popped into my head was John Lennon, but it's like, he wouldn't want to hang out with me.
That's actually a very good point.
If I'm bringing back John Lennon, we're assuming like I'm friends with him and we have a rapport, you know what I mean? Yeah, this question is faulty.
Well, you can start with the rapport of like, hey, I brought you back from the dead, do you want to get a taco or something? And we're like,
yeah, and he'd be like,
back
fuck
up
off.
Yeah, totes.
Yeah.
Back up here, back from the dead.
So,
last thing I remember was a really loud bang, and then I woke up here.
Oh God, you're the worst. I feel like that's my fault.
Yeah. Gen X, ladies and
I mean,
gentlemen.
I'd like to bring back Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but even that for 24 hours. She did all she could. Like, let's let her rest in peace. My answer is convoluted. What can I say?
Much like the show, it's all convoluted.
It's a bit on brand.
I mean, there's something about that question that suggests that I'm like, I want to sit down and have tea and we'll have a poetic conversation. I don't know what that person would be. You're that for me right now.
Oh,
Thank you. And well, I guess on that wholesome note, Lynn Rajskub, everybody. We'll be right back. Oh hey, thank you very much for watching, and thank you for joining us for the first half of Season 3. We'll be taking the winter break off, but when we come back, we'll have a very special guest, Major Monogram himself, Swampy Marsh. It's gonna be great. But for now, we'd like to thank Lynn Rajskub for coming on the show, being a really great person to talk to, and also being our second ever on-location interview. As usual, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I gotta call Craig an Uber, and as always, it is what it is. Oh, jeez.